Welcome back to the Urban Monk. I am happy to be in studio with a friend of mine who is doing some heroic work, and he is working to escape gravity. He is the grandson of Charles Lindbergh, who we're going to get into, and he has run some miles since, just done some phenomenal work in the space of aviation, in the space of space, and also fighting against gravity himself. So Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pedro.
It's good to have you here. We've been talking a lot over the years. I'm so intrigued about the work that you've been doing. And you've been kind of carrying a legacy, a family legacy, but also, just kind of doing things that are so far ahead of where people envisioned we were then, just trying to get airplanes in the air. Now we're up in space. Now we're trying to innovate airplanes. So let's, real quickly, just so people contextualize, who was your grandpa?
So my grandfather was Charles Lindbergh, best known for flying across the Atlantic nonstop in 1927, which really showed the world, it electrified the world. It was a time when communications, for the first time ever, really almost instantaneously spanned the globe. So the world went, wow, we could jump continents with these transportation machines called airplanes. And it jump-started the golden era of aviation. My grandmother, Anne Morrow Lindbergh, also was a pioneering aviator in her own right. In 1933, they flew around the world in a float plane and saw the world's largest flood disaster in China, the Yangtze River flooding. And then they flew all the rest of their lives, seeing our Earth from above. And that's, so for me, understanding how their viewpoints changed as they saw the planet, this technology that enabled this travel could also harm our quality of life. And that's probably the most important thing that they passed down to me, I think.
So once we get high enough to look down at this little blue ball and you start to see things within a context of, the bird's eye view, quite literally, then all of a sudden it starts to, I remember there was this huge moment where we talked about when I think it was Apollo, these guys got up into space and looked back and it was like the first shot of planet Earth, and it was just like, this changed everything. Like, oh my God, that's home, right?
Right. Oh, Frank White, in his book, The Overview Effect, talks about it. And he talks about my grandfather, and he talks about Jim Lovell putting his thumb up to the window of the spacecraft and blotting out the Earth. Makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and in talking, and I've met a lot of the astronauts through my work with X Prize Foundation. I have to say rest in peace to Gene Cernan. What an incredibly wonderful man. They all changed as a result of their flights into space and looking back down at our planet and realizing everything that they knew and loved and depended upon to survive is down here on this, fragile blue ball. So how do we make sure that this spaceship Earth, survives and thrives into the future? It's really the only sustainable spaceship we have.
That's it. It's really interesting to think that we can go up and live in a space station or colonize Mars or the moon. Man, that stuff is so far away in sci-fi still, right? Like forests take a long time to grow, and we're talking about single cells growing to trees, and that's sci-fi. This is all we got right now, right? And this is it. This is what we need to preserve. And so you've kind of carried on this aviation legacy, and you've started to look at electric flight. And it's just, to me, it's electrifying, right? Because we're talking about taking one of the big kind of petroleum consumption industries that is, here to stay, and transforming it into something that has less of a carbon footprint and less noise and a lot of things that you're doing. So let's talk about electric flight and how you got into it.
Sure. Well, first of all, being grandson of Charles Lindbergh, it was intense. I'm just normal me, right? But people would come up and go, oh, your grandfather was this, that, and the other, and that's really cool and intense. And I didn't know exactly where to put that. And he hid for the latter half of his life from the public eye. He really didn't step out unless it was something he really cared about, World Wildlife Fund, et cetera, because it cost him so much, that publicity. Cost him his firstborn son. It privacy, anything. And so we grew up kind of like, whoa, I call it Lindberghophobia. It's a little intense to have that legacy. But a buddy of mine, when I was 24, just kept bugging me about going flying. He wanted to go flying. Let's go do a demo flight and see what it's like. And this is so cool. And he went and did one. And finally, it got so annoying that I was like, all right, I'll go take a demonstration flight. And I went, wow, I want to do this. I just got it. I wanted to fly. And as I got my private license, I want to do what my flight instructor is doing. I could teach people how to fly. So I went on and got my instructor ratings, commercial certificates, and became a pilot. But as a pilot, I was teaching people, and we're sitting there on the runway with this, reciprocating engine, making a lot of noise, broadcasting it over a large area when we're flying. And the student may or may not be good enough or whatever. We're burning fuel. And there's something about this bothered me back then. And as I, went through my life, holding both this, I want to be a pilot, and I need to balance advances in technology with preservation of the environment. How do we do that? So when I saw my first electric aircraft at the big aviation trade show, Oshkosh AirVenture, 8 years ago, I went, oh, it solves that problem. It's clean, it's quiet, can use renewable energies. How do we help make this industry grow faster?
And there are some limitations. Batteries, so it turns out jet fuel is pretty packed with energy, and it burns really well, and it helps this whole industry go. And so the batteries are heavy, and we're just not quite. I mean, we're in this transition right now, right, where cars are starting to work, walls are starting to hold power. Humanity is starting to turn that corner, but not enough to keep those things in the air for long. Like, where are we at?
We live in an amazing age of technology, and I hope that we can use that technology to create a better quality of life for our kids and not decrease that quality of life. So applying it well is the key. How do we do that? So I just thought, well, I'm not an engineer. How do I help this industry? Started some organizations, started giving some prizes, doing prize philanthropy, recognizing the companies that were demonstrating electric flight in these small prototypes, mostly airplanes like gliders. So they have a lot of lift, but they also are fairly draggy, so they go slow. Because, as you said, the energy density of a battery, the same mass of a battery, if you put that mass in gasoline, there's more BTUs in the gasoline, so there's more energy. So we're not quite there yet. That's the constraining point. That said, Solar Impulse flew around the world. We have speed records now, time to climb. Companies like Airbus and stealth companies like Zee.Aero in the Bay Area, funded by one of the Google founders, et cetera, are coming up with electric propulsion for personal air vehicles in this, small 2 to 4 seat range that are going to change the way we move around the planet.
Or at least move around traffic, right, to start. Who's this kid that just did this piece? Samsung built him a personal drone, and he snowboards down this mountain. The frickin' drone picks him up, takes him back up, and it was just like he just democratized helicopter skiing with a little drone.
He was flying with a water ski rope, right?
Yeah, I lost it. I was just like, I want that right now. I want that right now, right? So I mean, that's happened. So now, how far is that from me? Saying, I went to LAX for something yesterday. It was an hour there, 2.5 hours back. How nice would it have been to do that? So that distance, what are we talking about? Jumping over traffic?
That's the holy grail. We've been talking about it at X Prize Foundation. This is an organization that I'm on the board of trustees, and we do prize philanthropy. We put up large, like $10 million prizes to break through technology that's not being solved by industry or governments. We did the Ansari X Prize that opened up private spaceflight industry. And we have a whole suite of prizes. We've been looking at an electric aircraft prize. What would it take to build a vertical takeoff, translate, vertical landing, X number of miles, personal air vehicle that could take 1 or 2 people autonomously with safety systems, do it quietly, that would lessen our dependence on the infrastructure of roads. So we've looked at that. We need $10 million, probably more, to administer such a prize. But we've had people nibbling at that and talking about it. And some of these companies are going ahead and working at it. So we're not sure if industry is going to address this or if we really need a prize to address this. So that's where we're at in that sort of phase. In the meantime, I'm building a demonstration aircraft down at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Eagle Flight Research Center. And I say, I'm building it. Well, I'm helping raise the money for it. It's 95% built by students who are engineering that, looking at the battery systems, baking the batteries in ovens because batteries can be volatile. Like they don't want us to take Samsung Note 7s on airplanes anymore because lithium fires are really spectacular. Yeah. This stuff is all coming really fast. And I think, is it going to be 5 years? Is it going to be 10 years before we can take an Uber personal air vehicle or a Lyft? Let's be, democratic here,
right,
and do that. And I live on an island up near Seattle. If I could go across the water, Seattle traffic is not quite as bad as LA. That's the holy grail of transportation, short distances.
Personal transport. What was the wake? So you guys with Peter Diamandis and this whole group of the X Prize put up $10 million. The Ansari X Prize was basically the first, if I recall, the first person to get up into a high orbit, considered space or something, just to kickstart it. So help me kind of remember this, but also then what has been in the wake of this entire industry that we're seeing now with the Falcon rockets and all? I mean, could that be attributed to this incentive structure?
Yes. Okay, so let me start at the beginning. In 1996, a group of us launched a nonprofit foundation. We announced a prize under the arch in St. Louis with 20 astronauts, including Gene Cernan, the head of NASA, all regional business leaders, et cetera, and we announced a $10 million prize to be awarded to the first privately funded manned space program. It had to fly up to 62 miles, return safely, and do it again within 2 weeks, showing that it's reusable, renewable, unlike the space shuttle, which had to be refurbished.
Got it. So you didn't want just a rocket the way the space shuttle had to work, is you'd have to just launch these things up there and put a bunch of payload and gas into doing that, or did you use reusable rockets?
Throw away a lot of the vehicle.
Right.
To do that. We wanted, so the Holy Grail is low-cost access to space. That's what we were after. In fact, we wanted to create, John Glenn did suborbital flight 30 years before. So it wasn't that this was a new thing, it was privately funded. And if private business could make that a magnitude of order cheaper, then we could start to realize the benefits of space. So what we really wanted to do was jumpstart the private space industry. Competition then would lower the price, the cost of getting people to space. And people laughed at us at first. Again, like electric aircraft, space is even tougher. Getting out of the gravity well is a huge thing, and you're using all these explosive propellants in a very explosive atmosphere. So it's incredibly difficult. I'll give you a book that Julian Guthrie wrote about it called How to Make a Spaceship. It really tells how hard it was to do this nonprofit. I make it sound like it was easy, but we should have failed, and we nearly failed if it weren't for people stepping in at different times. What that did is that Burt Rutan in 2004, backed by Paul Allen, put Spaceship One into space with Mike Melville, too old to fly for the airplanes, but he could fly a untested experimental rocket ship into space. They did it. They won the largest cash prize in history, and what it did was it opened up people's eyes. We used a prize just like my grandfather went after a prize in 1927. That opened up the golden age of aviation. We've now done that, and people went, oh, this is
possible.
Cool. Larry Page came on our board from Google, and he said, this is really cool, but this is a tool. This isn't, we were all space geeks, right? But he said, you could use this for a lot of other things.
This is an innovation incubator that you guys just hatched.
Exactly. And Elon Musk came on the board. And you know, these guys have that vision of, you know, what are the great industries of tomorrow that are gonna help our planet, move us off the planet, do heavy manufacturing in space so we don't harm the resources here on Earth. So I'll say yes, we did jumpstart this new golden age of space travel.
That's unbelievable. And you know, it's how good things get done. It's how great things get done. And so now you guys are looking at, you know, electric flight. What else? Is there anything else that is on the horizon with these prizes that we should know about?
You know, the sky's the limit. What is it? What is innovation? It's born of frustration. Why aren't we doing this? Oh, well, to be a part of a small team of people who got Spaceship One hanging in the Air and Space Museum next to the Spirit of St. Louis is incredibly empowering. We shifted the world's perspective on spaceflight. How do we do that again? It's empowering, and it's led all of us to just practice innovation and thinking. And whenever you see a problem, you see an opportunity instead. It's just, if it's impossible, it just hasn't been worked at from the right direction. Some direction that nobody's looking at. So at XPRIZE, yeah, we have Tricorder, the Qualcomm Tricorder XPRIZE, which is a handheld electronic device that will outdiagnose 10 board-certified physicians and get all your vitals, and including the absence of symptoms. What that'll do is democratize medicine for you and I. Like, oh, I got this crazy thing, it's bothering me.
No one can figure it out.
And well, or it's just your first step because it's cheap and it's easy, and pretty soon it'll be integrated into a cell phone. And you could diagnose yourself. You don't necessarily have to go to the doctor. That frees up the doctors to work on harder stuff. That's a huge shift right there, and it's coming from this technology. So we've whittled it down to 2 teams competing, and the prize, I think, if the timeline holds, will be end of the year, beginning of next year. That's totally exciting.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And the AI is really capable of going through the if-then clauses and looking at all the symptoms and the clusters of symptoms. And, you know, at that point, then the question is, you know, is it Kasparov or is it IBM Blue, right?
This is the age we live in,
Yeah.
and it's changing dramatically. So that's one really exciting prize, because we've all had that. Oh, am I really sick, or do I? You know, how do I make this decision with my kid? Should they go to school or not? And the actual act of going into the doctor is a huge investment. It's time, it's energy, it's waiting, and then you know, et cetera. So if you can go, oh, you should be fine. You need to drink tea, and you need to take care of yourself, or you've got deadly Bora Bora disease. You got to go now. That's, you know, when we need the doctors really badly. So, you know, I see that just, you know, being the beginning of a healthcare revolution.
You're no stranger to healthcare. You've had your own challenges, you know, escaping from gravity, and so you've had injury. I mean, but we actually get along real well because of our passion for skiing, right? And so you ski a lot, and you know you shouldn't be skiing. So the fact that you can ski is really a testament to your willingness to keep fighting against gravity and you know, doing what you got to do. So let's get into the history of that just a little bit, because you're so like hyperhuman in that.
Well, you could tell the skier in the room, right? They don't stop talking about it.
Totally.
I started skiing when I was, you know, like between my mom's legs on the rope tow in the rain or whatever. And I grew up with this incredibly physical sense of self. I was a state champion gymnast when I was 12. I had boxes full of water ski trophies, climbed and skied Mount Rainier. And when I turned 21, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And I didn't know what that was. And it just it felt like I had a sprained wrist and then 2 sprained wrists. It mirrors itself in the body, the, you know, symptoms. And by the time I was 30, I couldn't walk. I had worn all the cartilage out of my knees. And that physical sense of self was just gone. I walked with a cane. I destroyed my wrist cartilage because, I was putting so much pressure on the cane. I should have been using a walker or a wheelchair. And I lost, that sense of me. And, I was very lucky to have sort of modern technology. I had both of my knees totally replaced and, got my sort of mobility back. And then I started taking a breakthrough biotechnology drug that worked. And I started being able to build strength back and range of motion, and I got some measure of that physical life back. I don't know if I'll get a third chance at life, and that kind of motivates me. And the one thing, before we talk skiing, because I might get lost in that skiing, this process of 1986, I was diagnosed 10 years later. I had my knees replaced and then started taking this drug. They didn't know what to do for arthritis. There were a couple of drugs that had huge side effects, gold salts and methotrexate, a cancer drug, or prednisone. And so immediately it was like, what do you do in the face of that? You're suffering your life, you're losing your life. So you open up to alternative healthcare, and I tried all kinds of things, from bee venom therapy to supplements to psychology and so forth. It really opens you up, and I think my life was. I started really on an alternative healthcare path at a young age, and it's because of that disease process. It happened to be that a medical, I say breakthrough biotechnology drug helped me, and that's awesome. That works, but in many cases, I'm suspicious of doctors and healthcare and big pharma and so forth. I trust them as far as I can throw them, and that's not very far, right? But I made that deal with the devil, quote unquote, so to speak, because I had lost already, and I thought if I get 10 years of quality of life in return, and then I get cancer, because they didn't know the long-term effects of this drug, I would do that. I was in that desperate a situation.
Right.
What I've done since then is slowly add and come to a place in my life where I practice movement, and I believe movement is the key to longevity. I have to move, even if it's painful. I have to keep moving. And slowly I've rebuilt my life, walking, standing, skiing. Now I climb mountains. I can't really climb down because it makes my knees swell up and hurt. And but if you put me on skis or wheels,
You can bomb down.
I can bomb down. I don't want to crash, but
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's happened since too. I mean, so when we first got into rheumatoid arthritis and go, okay, we get what this is. There's a lot of immunosuppressive stuff. It's just like, fight fire with fire. We don't know what this is, but we know the basic mechanism. So let's just shut down the immune system and see if that helps. Now in this kind of realm of functional medicine, there are a lot of doctors looking at why the body is starting to freak out and attack its own tissue, attack itself. And, I would say, if you guys should do an X-Prize on that, man, because we're about 5 to 10 years away from really starting to understand the genetic, epigenetic, and some of the kind of functional mechanisms here. And I think that breakthrough drug is going to be on the front end of something else. It is an incredible time to be alive. And I would say that within your lifetime, RA, like rheumatoid arthritis and all these things, are going to have solutions. And the tricorder might even pick up the solution if you guys play it right. It's fascinating what's happening there.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
I totally agree. My immune system is compromised. I have allergies now to nuts and other things. That said, I'm high functioning. I travel again. I work hard and I play hard, and I ride single track mountain bike, hour and a half, 2 to 4 times a week, to keep, not only to keep me in shape, but to, as a meditation. I don't meditate as much as I'd like to, but when I ride, I check out, and I know these trails like the back of my hand, and sometimes I didn't mean to do that loop again. I was just lost in my mind. That regenerates me. It helps me solve problems and work out relationships and think of new brainstorms to work on. That exercise, and again, I just feel like that is the key to my longevity now, moving my joints.
You're no different than anyone else. You're just a guy who has your back against the wall and has no choice. But
at this point, yeah, you're right.
But genetically, epigenetically, like, we all moved. And so that processing that happens when you are ambulating and moving is where the brain starts to synthesize and take the sensory motor strip and just kick down information and integrate things. I do my best thinking on the mountain. I mean, I was just in Vail for 3 days, and I was with a business partner. We're talking on the chairlifts and then just going. And you can't
lose yourself. Yeah.
Well, and you can't afford the luxury of a thought. You know what I mean? You hit a tree. You got to be present.
That activates all the subconscious thinking, and that's the most powerful part of the brain, I believe.
That's it. So you play in circles that would be considered kind of high level, right? You're hanging with some very high level people, founders of Google, Elon Musk, and all these things. Is there a general sentiment out there of enthusiasm, like, hey, we can do this, like, we can apply our creative genius to make the world better? Like, these guys truly believe this and are going for it?
That's an awesome question. Some do. Peter Diamandis, the founder of XPRIZE and Human Longevity Inc. and Planetary Resources and so forth, believes that the future is incredibly bright. He's written books, Abundance and Bold, that really lay that out statistically. Now is the best time to be alive. There is actually fewer wars than we have had in history. We see them really up close and personal because of our media, but Crisis News Network, et cetera, they force it. But we have better disease control. We have a higher standard of, the globe has a higher standard of living, and it's coming up. And that's, so the general sentiment is yes. Some people are concerned about AI and about how we develop machines that are super intelligent, and is there an intersection at that singularity between humans and machines where the machines say, well, these humans are a threat to the planet, therefore we need to do something about that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting conundrum, and I don't know the answer. Some are concerned about it, and some think that we can
build in safeguards.
Well, pull the plug, I don't know.
Right.
Something. So that's the sort of the question of the next 20 years. Can it be? And I can't necessarily control that. What I can do is go out and put positive intention in my life and keep working, keep innovating, keep looking at problems as potential solutions and helping innovators come up with solutions to problems. And in that sense, I'm a total optimist. I think we're going to do great. And we're done with that era of destroying things to get ahead. It's phasing out. I have heard now that we're reaching parity between the cost of renewables like wind and solar and coal. And so it doesn't really matter. Coal may get subsidies because people don't like to lose their jobs or their income, et cetera, but money will trump that. Sorry. Money will make that a reality because the businesses that are cheaper will win out. And that's the important thing.
All this talk about coal in the last election, if you talk to anyone who knows what's up in the markets have already moved. Coal's done, right? So promising jobs back to people to haul coal is really, it's regressive. There are a lot other ways to produce energy, right? And that's the reality of it.
Yeah, and the reality of the politicians saying we're going to create jobs is a fallacy. They need to figure out how we're all going to get sort of universal incomes because jobs are going away.
To the robots, less so than to the Mexicans.
To the robots, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well,
yeah,
whatever.
Machines.
Politicians have never, I shouldn't say that. I should say the people in this room, the people in this building, the people in this state, California, have more power than all the politicians in the world to change the future. And that's what we did with X Prize. In fact, Al Gore came to one of our X Prize events when we were doing rocket races in the desert, and he said, I really get it now that the private sector has way more power to change the planet than the politicians do. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true.
We've been tracking this for about last year and a half for our next movie called Prosperity, and it's all about conscious capitalism. I've been following the captains of these industries, and you know the economic democracy that comes from you allocating power with the dollars you spend on the companies that you support is something that is the kind of the biggest secret in the industry, right? It's like, you know, you just keep getting bombarded by my media messaging saying, you know, keep buying this crap. And all you have to do is just buy this from an ethical supply chain, and it starts to transform the world. And so if I want private space flight, we actually had a guy in here last week or something who has now basically identified that by 2020, 50% of the exhaust, the pollution that comes from petroleum in Los Angeles County is actually from gardeners and like, you know, weed whackers and blowers and crap because the cars have gotten so good. And they're like, we already have the technology, just wear a battery and everything just goes electric, and then, you know, your gardener doesn't get cancer, the world's a better place. So it's like this real like easy lever, right, to transform an industry.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, we'll invest in that. That's great. Let's do that. So how, right? Like that's a world I want to see, sure. So how about the world where I get to, you know, get on a private electric aircraft and go across town and not sit in traffic and not make any noise? How far away? Like what do we need to do as consumers to make that happen? Or is that just still in the lab?
It's coming. What I would say is buy another laptop, buy another cell phone, I live on a small farm and I've got electric leaf blower. I never wanted one before because they're noisy. It's quiet and I'm able to just kind of take care of my thing. I go out in the garden, I do permaculture, which means I'm gone for weeks at a time. I come back with the weed whacker and whatever survived, I kind of mow around, and it's electric. At least it's quiet, etc. And and my kale survives and now seeds and comes back. I'm in my 4th generation. I love that stuff.
Are you suggesting that buying laptops keeps inspiring new generations of batteries? Like you got to keep money in an industry that's innovating on the battery tech?
Yeah, I'm being slightly facetious. Laptops, I mean, everybody needs their laptop anyway, but it helps. That battery miniaturization and power density, it's coming from those industries because that's where people spend money.
Got it.
Doing it with your electric drills and electric chainsaws. I actually have one of those because I have a little Japanese wood-fired hot tub on my farm, and
that sounds so cool.
I like to soak, and I grew up with wood heat, and it's quiet to cut some pieces of wood. It's tiny firebox, really efficient. That's where we need to go. When I got into electric flight and building this aircraft, I realized, in fact, I got invited by the National Park Service to demonstrate quiet flight above the Grand Canyon National Park. We haven't been able to quite make that happen. We're hoping next May, on the 90th anniversary of my grandfather's flights, we can fly the E-Spirit of St. Louis, all electric, and do more quiet flight testing with the Park Service.
The parks want this.
Yeah, because it's quiet. So the national parks have a mandate from Congress to protect the night skies and natural sounds inside the national parks. But if you've ever been to Grand Canyon, there's 50,000 air tour operations per day, some helicopters, some fixed wing, broadcasting noise over the park. And the Park Service would actually like more people to witness the park from the sky. It's extraordinary. I've done it. But quieter. And so they see this as a pathway towards clean, quiet flight. So that's why I started building this plane down at Embry-Riddle. I'm building it. The students are building it. Totally cool. And we've started a hybrid consortium development with OEMs like Airbus and GE and Pratt & Whitney and Cessna to build a 450 horsepower equivalent hybrid propulsion unit. That would be some sort of generator that puts into the batteries in the power plants for a 9-seat size aircraft. So we've started that development pathway.
Awesome. And so then you prove this out to the national parks. They say, you want to fly over our parks, you got to fly one of these, and then policy starts dictating industry and it becomes a virtuous cycle kind of thing?
We'll see. But I thought that's a worthy thing to do. It's absolutely worthy, and the Park Service wants it. And if you're disabled, you can't hike down into the canyon.
Right.
If you can fly over it, that's awesome. It's awe-inspiring. And that's just the fixed wing flight that I've been working on. There's other people working on what's called distributed propulsion. That means multiple props up in the air, like you talked about the snowboarder, Jeremy something or other. Yeah. He's snowboarding behind a drone, right? Picture a drone, an octocopter or a quadcopter that's scaled up to human size. That's the future of transportation. You look at what drones are doing today, they can go stick themselves on the wall and land and come back. That's our future. We can be transported around by vehicles like that. Scaling it is the issue right now. But if you want to look at the future, that's what it is. And there's companies like Zee.Aero, eVolo in Germany that are building this distributed mini props facing upwards. Some are hobby motors that carry vehicles, personal air vehicles, if you will. That'll be quiet, have redundancy, so they'll be safe. And if you use renewable energy to power those, we're there for short distances. 5 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 8 years?
It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It's happened.
And I said battery technology is kind of the sticking point. Well, there's one more big hurdle, and that is the infrastructure. The FAA and the air traffic control, how do you start to do that? I would say the FAA got caught behind big time with drones. Drones are everywhere now. And they were like, whoa, how do we do this? There's, every kid has a drone.
Yeah.
And they're flying, and airliners are narrowly missing them. So
it's a thing.
It's a huge thing.
It's a bigger thing when grandma falls out of the sky.
It's a bigger thing. And so we need that redundancy, ballistic recovery systems,
parachutes,
balloons, et cetera. There's all kinds, and autonomy now. And the distributed propulsion, if you lose a motor or a prop, no problem. The code takes over and you're totally stable and you land. Pretty soon people aren't going to be driving cars. They'll either drive themselves or we'll be using personal air vehicles.
I was just talking to someone about this, and it's fascinating to me in that, Google's car crashes and everyone's like, oh, see, there's a thing. But if you look at the amount of self-driving cars that are being tested right now in the thousands and thousands of hours, and you start looking at the accident data, any day USA, and I think that within a couple of years, we're going to have enough data to substantiate saying, hey, the bots are driving way better than us. Why don't you stay in the back seat and text?
They already are.
They already
right?
are.
I mean, Tesla got hammered because that guy crashed because of the big white truck.
The reflection
pulled
on it.
across and it didn't quite. Okay, well, that's fixable.
Right.
In the meantime, what's their record? They're way better than humans.
Yeah.
And they're not all the way there yet.
Yeah, and Uncle Frank likes to drink and drive. There's so many things that humans are doing wrong and causing fatalities that, okay, so if this becomes an inevitability, and it's just like, okay, you can drive because this is America and people want their liberties, but let the computers just do it and read a book or whatever. Then Amazon's flying their drones everywhere and delivering your toothpaste. Eventually, I just see those dots connecting pretty quickly and having automated flight patterns that, are kind of tied into an FAA database or something, right?
That infrastructure will come, I think, fairly rapidly. It's going to be hard because people don't like change, but the technology is coming. We're at this curve, exponential curve in data, right? Data processing that enables all this stuff. And we've been building for a long, long time, but you know what happens with an exponential curve? All of a sudden, it hits the curve and it goes straight up. We're just getting there, and it's an extraordinary time.
I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you fought your way back up and I've been going up mountains and skiing down, and just going after just cool shit, man. You're doing some really interesting stuff. How can people support what you're doing? How can people keep eyes on your work? I mean, we're kind of rounding out to the end of the show here, and I'd like to keep you here for a week. But like, so
I'll come back.
Come back. So what, how can we get more of this? How can we keep our eyes on the X Prize and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I've just built a new website called Escape from Gravity, which kind of my story of sometimes gravity sucks harder when you're in bed trying to get up after a hard day of skiing. Sometimes from other things, or we want to escape and see our planet from space. So that kind of links, my endeavors. Powering Imagination is my business, doing electric flight, and so poweringimagination.com, escapefromgravity.com, and that'll lead you to Powering Imagination. And XPRIZE, xprize.org. It's an amazing nonprofit that we should have failed at, but we made it happen. And if you want to read more about it, How to Make a Spaceship by Julian Guthrie. The story's finally been told, and I'd love to give you a copy of it today.
Would love that.
I've got a few copies with me. It just made the New York Times bestseller list, and I think the Forbes or Fortune magazine top 10 business books. It's starting to really gain acceptance for what it is. This is a game changer in terms of changing and tackling the grand challenges we have coming at us, tackling them proactively.
So you take big social problems, things that the world needs, you gamify innovation, you incentivize innovation, and let humans do what they do best, which is be creative and think outside the box and really come from play. Yeah, because that groupthink is hard. When you're an organization and you have those bumpers on, I work with a lot of corporations. It's really hard for them to think outside any box.
Sure. Oh, crowdsourcing innovation is an amazing tool.
Yeah.
And we've just touched the surface on that. The garage innovator, I'll say, Burt Rutan, building his little thing at Scaled Composites in the desert in Mojave, created a spaceship that went for a fraction of the cost. And Boeing early on looked at this, some guys from Boeing, and they said, no, we can't do that. It can't be done for $10 million. And it costs $10 million to do a study, right? But there's garage innovators, the guys building cars, et cetera, and inventing hardware that have incredible expertise without the cumbersome nature of a bureaucracy around them. Can cut right through that. We're seeing more and more of that. That's a very exciting time.
Fast and light. Yeah, and actually they're going to create industries and jobs that don't exist right now, and so people who are worried about like where their manufacturing job went aren't looking ahead at all the new industries that are being birthed and all the new opportunities. I mean, I know that the local solar panel installation company is booked out 18 months. Like they're just so much business because everyone's like, oh, solar, cool. They can't get enough installers. So if you used to work a job that no longer exists, look at where the world is moving and be a part of the solution, and get up, defy gravity. It's time to get up off of it. There's
what's
a
really
lot to be said. Yeah.
What's really true is you got to be flexible and you got to fail forward fast so that you learn each time and then can make a different decision and move forward, because that's the way we're going. If you fail and you stop, you're like, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do life. You gotta escape gravity, the gravity of that moment, and find something else, find a new way. Because if you don't continue and move and grow and learn and adapt, then you're not gonna go anywhere. And
it's funny, is my last movie we did in the African bush, and just origins, and we tracked the lions and we learned how to survive out there. And if that's where we all come from, the law of the bush, the law of the jungle, if you don't fall forward, if you don't innovate forward, you're lunch, right? And society has shifted to the point where we feel, there's this social structure and this net, and you could always fall backwards and complain to your politician about how the world sucks. But, the energy of life is one of kind of the evolution of thought and innovation to keep being part of what's moving and supporting. And so, look, I think that there needs to be a social net and stuff like that. But like a lot of it is just look forward, not backward. This is a very exciting time.
Well, there are lots of predators out there. And they're not just looking for the individual. They're going to eat Kodak for lunch.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to, they invented digital photography. They should be, but they're like, nah. Oops.
Yeah, lunch it is.
They got eaten for lunch. And there's more and more markets being disrupted now than ever. Those big established companies need that innovation.
That's it. Well, eat or be eaten is the law of the jungle.
We need that innovation also.
That's it. We all do. We all do. So, Eric, man, I'm so honored to have you come visit. The only thing that I'm, kind of upset about is we didn't get to ski this weekend. So I'll come up and get some skiing up with you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's
man,
a deal.
Great to see you, and thank you for stopping in. Let me know what you think. I will see you in the next show. This is Dr. Pedram Shojai, the Urban Monk.